To help your van stand out from the crowd, you can buy a multitude of exterior styling products such as wind deflectors, body kits and alloy wheels. I'm Lee, this is Coombe Valley Campers, and today we're going to be showing you how to fit sidebars on your T4. Having sidebars fitted to your T4, T5 or T6 is almost a rite of passage into styling when it comes down to your camper van. The set I've got in front of me is gloss black and they are made from steel. You can get these types of sidebars in all sorts of different styles, colours and even chrome. What we're going to do today is go through all the kit that I have in front of me and then fit them onto this T4 behind me. There's not going to be any big tools or any drilling that needs to take place. It's a very simple kit, but we're going to show you how to do it step by step. The vehicle behind me then is a T4 and it's a 2.5 102 brake version. We've very nearly finished converting it, but one of the last bits to put on are these sidebars. The kit in front of me then comprises of all the nuts, bolts and washers, brackets and even the sidebars obviously you're going to need to fit to this wagon. It's a very simple kit to fit. At the front you need these two brackets, the 4 bolts, the accompanying washers and the nuts to go with it. These are the 2 brackets for the front, and as you can see they're sided, so we'll get into that when it comes to actually fitting them. The remaining bracket here you're going to use 2 bolts for, 2 washers and 2 nuts. Once again they're sided and we'll go through that when it comes to fitting them, and the remaining nuts, bolts and washers are going to be for actually bolting the sidebars to those brackets when you're happy with their position. So we're going to take you down now. We're not going to jack up the car or anything, and we're going to start with the front. So what we have, we're on the passenger front and we have this bracket here, and these brackets are really nicely made and they're powder coated as you can see. We have one of the bars, 2 of the bolts that have got the rounded head and the squared off top section, and they fit into that bracket. Then we have 2 of the plastic washers. These are designed to go over the bolts and then stop the bolts pushing back up into the body as you're trying to wind the nut on. And then we have the securing nuts and the washers to go in there as well. And that's it. So what we have then is the bracket with one of the bolts passed through and that plastic washer. And these plastic washers are just designed to hold those bolts in place for the next stage. And what that's going to be is passing through this plate through the chassis rail itself. So we've got 2 holes, one large one here and one smaller one there. What we're going to do, now you can see that those plastic washers are holding the bolts in place, and we're going to feed that one through the big hole there, all the way up and round. And there we go. We now have the bracket and 2 bolts hanging down to that chassis rail. All that is left to do then is to put the bracket up and mount it onto the 2 bolts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the bracket against one of the bolts, put the washer on, and this may look awkward but I'm trying to do it on camera. There's one. Just finger tight for the minute. And it's as simple as that. When it comes to tightening up, you just use an appropriate size spanner or an appropriate size socket. In this case, these nuts are a 15mm. So the back bracket then is even more simple than the front. It's 1 bolt, 2 washers and a nut. Some people may not feel the need to use 2 washers. In this case we are, mainly because we've got a large elongated hole here and the point at which we're bolting through, which is this jacking point at the back. It's also the hinge point for the rear trailing arm, and it's an elongated hole in there. So I've chosen to put 1 washer this side of the bolt. And then what we're going to do now is hold up the bracket to this part of the chassis. So this point and this point here are resting on 1 and 2 points there. And then all I'm going to do is, when I'm holding that up in position, is pass that bolt through, put one washer on the backside, one bolt on the backside, nut on the backside, and then put it into position finger tight. Now, it's like I said, it's got a little bit of movement there, which is nice, but it's also got a large elongated hole there as well. So next thing is to prepare all our nuts and bolts for popping the sidebars on and then bringing the sidebars into position. The next stage then is to actually mount the sidebars onto the brackets. Again, everything's loose, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to need to adjust and play with. And what we're going to do is sit this bracket on top of this one, drop your bolt in with one washer, and then once it's in a position you're happy with, put the second washer and nut on the bottom, so you've got a bit of a sandwich that looks just like that. As you can see, there's still a lot of movement in there, and again, we're not going to be tightening anything up until we're exactly happy. Everything's tight enough to stay where it needs to be and obviously move, but yeah, only once we're completely happy will we tighten everything up. The bolts in this case have got a 17mm head and the nuts have got a 15mm, so you'll need the right size spanner or socket to fit them. So when it comes to the front bracket, it's exactly the same detail. We've got the bracket in a position that I'm happy with. I'm going to pop the bolt in, if I can squeeze my hand around, there we go. As you can see, there's a ton of movement in there still. Put my nut on from the bottom with the washer. And then keep it finger tight. Now the brackets are in place and the bars are in place and I'm looking down the line of the van, I think what I'm going to do is make sure that this flush end of the sidebar itself is going to meet flush with this point, with the actual sill where the metal is actually pressed and welded together. That'll give me a good point, a good reference point all the way from the front and back, and with a bit of luck, as long as this van is nice and straight, which it is, you'll have a nice even sidebar all the way down that corresponds with the line of the body. So I'm going to keep this point here, just going to do that up a little bit tight on the finger there, and then I'm going to go to the back, adjust it the same and go and take a look, see how it looks. After a little bit of a fidget then, I actually decided that the line of the wheels was a really good point to meet them up with. So it's flush with the back wheel, flush with the front wheel, and I've just made sure that there's just enough room that I can still access the drain tap on the waste tank that's fitted with this van also. Now all I'm going to do is get the right spanners, sockets, nip them all up, and we'll call that side done. So it took a little bit of messing around, a little bit of adjusting, but I'm finally happy with how they sit on the van. Going over to the other side now, it's exactly the same as this side really, not much difference, just make sure you get the right brackets on the right side. So what I'm going to do now is head over, fit the next one, and then you can see the finished result. And there we have it, a quick, simple mod that is really effective when it comes to the styling on your van. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and click like, and also please consider subscribing. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.